Let's look ahead at tonight's Spurs Jazz game and have another fan episode. And are fans now having their impatience turn into anger?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from Cybertron Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs and the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Merry Christmas, everybody. I know it's the day after Christmas, but nevertheless, happy holidays. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day around the corner. So happy holidays, all that fun stuff. Hope you had a great one with your family and friends. You can find us on YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, the list goes on and on. Yeah, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. It's always free and available wherever you get podcasts. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app right now, create an account, use Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking ahead at tonight's Spurs Jazz game. I'm quickly preview tonight's game because, yeah, Spurs fans, we're going through it, aren't we, huh? We'll look at some key stats, some numbers to look at. Hopefully the Spurs get a W. And then we're going to bring in a fan episode. Fan is going to be Jacob Eric. He's been on these fan episodes many times. He's going to be tackling the topic whether fans' impatience is now turning into anger towards the silver and black. Quick note, it was recorded during the Christmas Eve holiday. So unfortunately, he could not do video. He could only do audio. He didn't want family and friends being caught on camera. Nevertheless, he's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But let's get you ready for tonight's Spurs Jazz game. Spurs come into the game 4-24. Yikes. Jazz 12-18. The Spurs are on a 4-game losing skid. Let's rewind the clock a bit. Spurs are coming off a road loss to the Dallas Mavericks, 144-119. Whew, what a loss. Wemby, for those on Wemby watch, he did not play due to a freak accident during pre-games. He stepped on the ball boy's foot, rolled his ankle. Spurs decided to err on the side of caution. They sent him out. It's been that kind of season, huh? Zach Collins had 14 points and 5 rebounds in the loss. Sohan had 9 rebounds. Keldon Johnson had 16 points. By the way, Sohan had 23 points. Devin Vassell recorded 9 points in the loss. As far as jersey watch, the Spurs will be in their statement edition jerseys today. You know, SATX, those. So what are we looking at tonight? So let's start on the Jazz side since they're the guests. So the Jazz are coming in on a 2-game road winning streak. So they're finding a little bit of a groove right now away from Utah. And speaking of that 2-game streak, this is something the Spurs are going to have to really key on is defending the 3 line. The Jazz have connected on more 3-pointers than the opposition during the last 2 games. So they're starting to hit the 3-point shot. Spurs got to be wary of that, close out on those Jazz 3-point shooters. Hopefully the Spurs defense can live up to that task. More on the Jazz. Keep it on the halftime score. If the Jazz are ahead at half on the road, the Jazz are undefeated. They're 3-0. Now let's look to the silver and black side now. Since we're on the halftime talk, let's talk about that. So also keep your eye on the billboard. The scoreboard too, because if the Spurs are down at half, they're 0-5 at home. So there's no friendly confines of the Frost. Nope. If they're down at half, they're likely going to lose at home. So I don't know if those of you are going, maybe that might help y'all leave early. I don't know, but just keep an eye on that. That's been the history pattern this season. I'm not going to give you total doom and gloom. This could help the Spurs tonight versus Utah. The Spurs are averaging 44.8 rebounds per game in the month of December. This is the highest rebounding mark they've had in any previous month this season. So they're crashing the boards. Hopefully that'll be something useful the Spurs can use tonight versus Utah to get that W. There was your quick Spurs Jazz preview. Coming up next, we're going to have Jacob Eric, a fan, joining us on this fan episode of Locked On Spurs. That's next. He's going to be discussing whether impatience is now turned into anger towards the silver and black, and who other people could Spurs fans be pointing the finger at for this abysmal season. That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
But before we bring in our guest, I want to talk about eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Josh picked for us at this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And lo and behold, he has a Spur on the list. Yes, he's advocating, pushing that you look at Malachi Branham. Go figure. We're going to be talking about him next. He says that he seems to be a starter for the Spurs in the short term, at least, and he's flashed some increased passing skills, increasing his fantasy viability. Yeah, getting those minutes on the court with the starting unit is going to bump up his numbers. So again, he is picking Malachi Branham for this week's eBay's Motors Fantasy Picks of the Week. That's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. So he has Malachi. Go get him. Look, Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. Look, do you have any personal experience trying to buy a part for your car? You've been having some tough going about it, looking for it. What about your dream ride? Do you have your dream ride? Do you think it needs some fine tuning, some extra parts, maybe upgrades? What about that car that you loved? You want to get it back? You want to just go to buy one and then look for the parts for it? So look, if you want to keep your car running, you want to fix your car up, or you want that cool upgrade that you've really been wanting, you want to go to eBay Motors right now. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. They got brake kits, LED lights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're going to be burning rubber, not all that cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only is available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with this segment of the fan episode. That's right, everybody. As y'all know, fan episodes are done every once in a while throughout the season. We're gonna have another one because Spurs fans, I think they're getting tired already. What was once called the process, patience, is maybe turning into anger and frustration. We're going to talk about right now with the fans right now. Who is repping the fan base? He is back, everybody. So he's back, Jacob Eric. Let's go to welcome back. Jacob Eric, welcome back to Locked On Spurs.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me back on.
Not a problem. Follow him on X at Jacob Eric C. Make sure you do that right now. He's a veteran of these. He knows how these work. But for those who don't know, this is how it goes down. He's going to be talking about what the fans are talking about and then his personal opinion regarding two topics. So the first one, Jacob, is a big one. So, Jacob, everybody talks about the process and patience and everything. That definitely was the vibe to start the season, heading into the season, maybe after the first month of the season. But slowly but surely, you're seeing on the social media, it's turning into anger, frustration. So the big question is, Eric, what are Spurs fans saying about the state of the Spurs right now? I'm noticing it's now just turning into anger now. Is that true?
I think it is turning into anger. And one of the reasons that I think that's why it's happening is because, at the beginning of this season, Pop stated that, hey, this season was going to be about winning. Even Devin Vassell came out and said, hey, we're going to be hooping. You know what I mean? And when you look back to last season, the beginning, I believe it was, or Pop had said, hey, don't bank on us to win the NBA Finals this year or something like that. And then I kind of believe that, Keldon Johnson even got marched out there and he was like, yeah, well, this is going to be a rebuilding year. And, so Spurs fans knew what to expect last season and then they rode with them. And this season, they were told, hey, this is what you can expect. And it's nothing like that. You know what I mean? So I think that they are frustrated. They are angry. What are we sitting at 4-24 right now? You know what I mean? And it's like, you look at it, it's like 4-24. Like, my goodness, that can't be right. But it is, and it's like, how are we doing worse this year than we were last year when we were trying to lose. You know what I mean? And I understand the anger, and and I do believe it's gone from frustration to anger, and I understand it. It's just when you look at the games, like, my goodness, they're just horrible.
Yeah,
It's horrible. It's just horrible to watch, and it's frustrating. And yeah, people do get angry, and the ones that I feel the worst for are the season ticket holders. My goodness, look at the prices that they paid. I'm mad just because I got the NBA League Pass. I can't imagine how upset I would be if I was a season ticket holder. It's gotten that bad. And frankly, it's embarrassing. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. And you're seeing, especially on social media, just fans being open about it, saying that they are embarrassed to be Spurs fans right now. That, some fans, I don't even think they're watching games anymore. I really don't. And but Eric, Jacob, do you still think that should fan base still have patience? Knowing that, Wemby is a 19-year-old and this team really hasn't had the chance to really gel together because he got injuries to Vassell, and then of course Wemby's been out. Do you think there should be a sprinkle of patience still, or no, this is full on anger? Spurs fans are done with the season.
I mean, I kind of want to think that there should be a little bit of patience, but at the same token, you got to look at what the Spurs are doing. There's no improvement. You know what? If they were losing by like 5 or 6 points a game, we could say, like, okay, what did we learn? What did we get from this game? But when you're getting blown out like by 30 or 40 points, almost every single game, there's nothing you take away from that. And that's what got everybody upset. It's ridiculous. It's like, how many times do you have to get your butt kicked to learn, like, oh, okay, this is what you not do? And I do believe, like, I do believe that if the fans saw some kind of improvement, then everything would be different. You know what I mean? Like, everybody would just be like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. Jeff, this is ridiculous. It's just horrible. It's just horrible, and it's hard to watch. And I have seen some fans who have already gone to the point where they're just like, I'm not watching. I'm just not watching. And I could, if they want to go that route, I can understand. Yesterday I was traveling, right? Example, I was traveling, so I wasn't able to watch last night's Spurs game. I'll give it to, but I was able to chime in real quick, or just jump in real quick and check the score. And I think the Spurs were like losing by 40. And I was just like, just turn it, just walk right back. I knew exactly what was happening because it happens every single game. And yeah, we lose maybe by like 20 or whatever. But yeah, that's like garbage time points that are just making up. I mean, the product that they put out there is just horrible. They did nothing to surround Wemby.
What do you think would be a Band-Aid to stop, Spurs fans from kind of already turning out the season already? Is there something the Spurs can do right now that'll make you, the fan base, feel a little better about this disastrous season?
I think that a Band-Aid would be just trying different lineups, honestly. Trying to do something. And I'm not saying that it's going to help. I'm not saying that it's even going to work. But as long as you hear something going on in the kitchen, you know that there's something going on. But right now, there's nothing. They're just doing the exact same thing. And it's just horrible, Jeff. The product that they're doing that they're putting out there. Oh my God. I keep going back to the season ticket holders because I want to speak for them. I'm not a season ticket holder, but I would be extremely angry if I was one of them. I would just be like, man, that might want to be one of those things where, like, hey, never again. Like, yeah, that bad.
Yeah, it's bad. And look at the recent loss to Dallas. They were somewhat in it at halftime, and then the wheels just completely fall off. And it's almost rinse repeat at this point. You can pretty much
every game is the same.
You can pretty much predict every game. I always tell fans, you don't worry about the first half. Wait till the second half to see if things turn around. And that's where they don't usually. I mean, every time they're leading at halftime, majority of the time they blow it. Even at the third, if they're losing at the third, they're going to lose. It's very predictable.
Yeah, and I've said the same thing. Some fans they'll just be like, "Hey, here we go." In the second quarter, we're like, "Oh, we're all right. We're hanging in there," and then it's just always like, "Give it time, give it time." You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. If it's not the third quarter, which most of the time it is, it's going to be the fourth quarter, and it's just bad.
Yeah.
And everybody's getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated right now just talking about it.
Frustration is in Spurs fandom right now. When we get back, we're gonna ask Jacob Eric if it's beyond the players now. Are Spurs fans now pointing fingers at Spurs brass, Brian Wright, coaching staff beyond Popovich himself? That's up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
But before we continue our chat, I want to talk about GameTime.co. You want to go to GameTime.co right now, everybody. Look, you don't have to worry about buying tickets to your next big event. Just go to GameTime. It's the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from receipts, the best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Look, you get the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, zone deals. Basically, those are where you pick the section, GameTime picks the seats. That's an average savings of 18%. The GameTime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. So if you find tickets in the same section of row for less, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. What more do you need? Go to GameTime right now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
This is Zach Aguilar, the voice of Tanjiro Kamado, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back on Locked On Spurs, on this fan episode, I should say, of Locked On Spurs. We're joined by Jacob Eric. He is a veteran of these episodes. Make sure to follow him on X at Jacob Eric C. And he is steaming. Spurs fans are steaming. Spurs fans are pulling their hair out. They're done with the season. But, Jacob Eric, is it beyond just the players? Is it beyond just Pop? Are Spurs fans starting to point the fingers at perhaps Brian Wright, Popovich? Where do you see that going?
I do see them. You know what? It's kind of funny that you asked that because right now, I kind of feel like since all the Spurs fans are like looking around at everybody and they're like, what's going on? They're pointing the fingers at everybody, and that does include the front office. You know what I mean? It's like, what did they do to prepare for Wemby's arrival? And they did nothing. Lots of times I've said, I was like, guys, it's the exact same team that we had last year. It's the exact same team. All we did was we just put brand new rims on the car. We just put we put some 20s on the car. It's still the engine still knocks. It still pulls to the right. You know what I mean? It still backfires when you shut it off. It's the exact same team. And I was like, how did that happen? I don't know. I have to believe that they have like a plan in place. What that is, I don't. Hey, everybody's trying to guess at it, but it can't. This can't be what they had planned out, Jeff. This can't be. You know what I mean?
No, but they're saying about wins. Remember, it was all win, 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 win. So obviously they didn't know that it was. Well, they didn't anticipate this, but. I asked you this question the last segment, so I'll ask it in this final segment. So it's very similar. Could the Spurs redeem themselves by making a trade at the trade deadline, doing something to salvage the season? Or do you think Spurs fans say, you know what, just wait till the offseason, let's salvage it then?
I think that's like a 50-50 because we're what, a third of like a third into the season already. And, and so there really is nobody in the draft or, you know what I mean? Like nobody, I guess, to like go after. So, but I do see some people who would be like, hey man, just go ahead and try to get the best draft pick you can. But then at the same token, if they were to make a trade and they were to mix something up, you know what I mean? Then I think Spurs fans would be like, okay, well, at least we see something happening. At least we see them trying. They're trying to do something. That's what I go back to, like, okay, we hear something in the kitchen. Something's cooking up. We don't know what it is, but at least they're trying. But I mean, God, it's just right now, it just, when you look at it, it's just like, how did we get this? But
exactly.
I'm over here right now. Let me put it this way. I'm over here like at a family member's house right now, and I had a 6-year-old come up to me and say, like, Uncle, why do the Spurs playing like childs? And I'm like, man, he called them childs. And I was like, I threw him back to football. I was like, hey, when you figure that one out, you let me know. And his response back was, he was like, I thought we were supposed to be playing better with Wemby. I mean, a 6-year-old, it's that bad.
Yeah, it's gotten bad. And think about it too, is that you look at the schedule. For example, tonight they'll play the Jazz. And you cannot sit here and say, yeah, they got this. Like, I saw Liefeld versus Memphis. The first time the Spurs in Memphis played, this is without Ja Morant. I said, oh, the Spurs got this. And they lost. And tonight, Spurs Jazz, I'm not too sure. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz win. But yeah, it's definitely, I know. And I thought last season, Jacob, was dark times. Yeah, but at least the dark times had a silver lining with the draft. This silver lining, I mean, can you figure out any silver lining the Spurs fans are clinging to right now?
No. And you know what? I kind of feel bad because I know it was me, you, and everybody who did go through the 2 rebuilds telling the people who haven't been through a rebuild before, just like, hey, take it easy. Calm down. We know exactly what's going on. Everything's going to get better. And, they were like throwing their hands up in the air and we're like, hey, trust us. We've seen this before. It's happened twice. Everything's going to be okay. And then we roll into this next season. And now I feel that they're looking at us like, you told us to calm down. You told us everything was going to be, this is not what you said was going to happen. Yeah. So now you, and everybody who told them that we've been through this twice, now we're lying to them.
Hey, you know what? How did Vegas know about this season? Like, I mean, do they have Nostradamus working for them still?
That is wild,
seriously. How did they know this? By the way, like it is frustrating, and I understand where Spurs fans are right now. They're angry. You're angry. The majority of them are upset. There's some that are still keeping the faith. You can look on X and you can see them, talking about, oh, keep the faith, everybody. You guys don't love the Spurs, but at the same time, there are a bigger segment of Spurs fans that are upset.
And you know what? And that does. That's kind of like a positive, because if the Spurs fans weren't upset, if the Spurs fans weren't looking at each other, pointing fingers or going like, hey, what is going on here? Then they wouldn't care. That would be it just shows that they wouldn't care. But they are angry. They are like going, like jumping up and down, going like, what's going on? And to me, that shows that they're like me. I'm going to still be rocking my Spurs gear. I still have on my merch. Like right now, I'm just frustrated going around like, what? It's when you stop hearing the Spurs fans talk. It's when you stop hearing them complain. You know what I mean? That's when I think that, people would start getting worried.
Absolutely. So the Spurs fans are definitely pointing fingers at everybody. And that's from Popovich to the players to rotations to Brian Wright. The list goes on and on. But look, that's why you guys are fans. You pay the money, you buy the merchandise. Y'all have a right to share what y'all feel. And whether it's pro Spurs right now or come on, get with the Spurs, like the anger is setting in for Jacob. Everybody there's nothing wrong with either side. It's just y'all keep it civil. But Jacob, we thank you for hopping on Locked On Spurs again. Again, we appreciate taking your time. By the way, everybody, this is recorded on Christmas Eve, hence no audio today. So we had to accommodate everybody right now. But nevertheless, Jacob, as always, a pleasure. By the way, I heard you got your card graded, huh? Is there a certain card that got graded?
There was a certain card that got graded. It was the Los Wemby that David pulled. We got it back when we first were checking it out. Josh and I were like, I don't know, we should send this one to get graded. It looks like it had a pretty good ding in the lower right-hand corner, in which it did. And when you get a card graded, you always want them to come back at its 9s or 10s. That's you just want to. And the card came back, and just to let y'all all know, it came back as a 9.
Whoa,
so that was really good. David had already made it known that he was going to keep the card from the very get-go. And the reason why Josh and I were like really worried was like, if it comes back like as a 7 or a 6, it might kind of like, dampen the mood for him or whatever. But nope, it came back as a 9. So yeah, he's happy about that one.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear more about the Los Wemby card, what's in store next for it. And I'm pretty sure you will definitely share that with us. By the way, everybody, if you just go on YouTube right now, search the archives, look for Wemby basketball card. As your search terms, you'll find the episode where Jacob and his son pulled the Wemby card. It's an exciting episode. You got to check it out. Again, follow Jacob on X at Jacob Eric C. Make sure you do that right now. He's all about the cards. So if you have anything about basketball cards, trading cards in general, he loves to talk to you about that. He's a good resource right there. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. We're back tomorrow. I'd like to recap the Spurs game versus the Jazz and more silver and black talk. Before we let you go, check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Why? It's the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And subscribe to Locked On Spurs, Ken 5 Plus app, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. The list goes on and on. So for Jacob Eric C on X, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this fan episode of Locked On Spurs.